What's up, guys? As you may know, I just got done making one of the best possible Sims. So today we're going to fulfill a request and try to explore the worst Sim possible. This one is by request. Multiple people asked me how to make a bad Sim, so I wanted to check that out, and I do have a few things to share from the experience. I made this guy with a towny sense of style, plump bottom to go with a beer belly, and cute little hoof loafers. I reckon it's clear if you want bad things, he's your go-to guy. He's just not very good at being bad, but he's more likely to than other Sims. I guess it's funny, the worst Sim has a hard time living up to my negative expectations. Anyway, how did we get here? Well, if people wanted a guide to making bad Sims, I was going to explore if it was even worth figuring out what traits to pick. So I decided I'd just take all the bad ones. This was pretty hard to pull off. Why is that? Well, the game won't let you have more than 3 personality traits, even with cheats. Traits.equip trait will just do nothing if you try to add a 4th personality trait. Discovering this was a letdown, but I was also kind of amused by the fact that I hadn't ever tried it in 5 years. So you can have all the negative character values, but can't have more than 3 of the traits you see in casts. I had to resort to modding to get more than that. It took me 5 whole hours to manage to figure out how to override the game's own command for adding traits. See, I really only needed to modify the max, but I'm utterly incompetent in Python. The best part is I found a working mod that raises the cap after I was done making my own. At least I learned to do this. And it was an extremely cathartic experience. Oh yeah, and this. I'm sorry, I've derailed us. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with that. Well, anyway, eventually, thanks to past posts by people like the late and great Scumbumbo, as well as Deaderpool, I did figure it out on how I could put on as many negative traits as I wanted. I proceeded to load him up with crummy traits. He's argumentative, he's a hothead and gloomy at the same time, something not normally possible. He is clumsy, jealous, irresponsible, and he hates your kids. Yeah, he's a real loser too, as we pretended he got deep in the red on character values and nabbed all 5 bad parenthood traits. So I got into the game and finally saw all these traits didn't disappear on me, so I was good to go. I decided I'd look at this 2 ways. I first played through and took control. I figured a romantic goal was a good idea, given he's non-committal and has all these awful traits. Surely no one could love him. I found that sometimes there were bad reactions to him, and you do have to pull the conversation out of a nosedive at those times. I feel like if I didn't know that the context matters on conversations, I might have had a bad time. When the welcome wagon came, he got into an awkward encounter, but just because I was flirting, I think. He chooses to cry his eyes out to relieve the cringe, I guess. Later, he chews someone out, but that doesn't sting as much as I'd think it should. Before they leave, he chooses to rip a big one in the tiny, unventilated living room. Alright, so this isn't working for me. I put on his Sunday best and take him to the lounge so he can try to pick up some women. After leaving my completely undecorated hovel, I realize we have a big problem when it comes to emotions here. See, this spread of traits, the problem is they might impact him sometimes, but they all do different things and they all fire at different times. You need the stars to align to have your traits give you more than, say, +2 angry or tense. So in any public setting that is decorated, there's this instant push toward happiness. Traits do steer behaviors, but see, emotions do too. So happy ends up way overrepresented, and you don't get a pissed off sim like you want. You get the same candy flavored cozy rainbows and sunshine, not the darker experience you might be looking for. He has over a few Sims for a visit in his horrid home because of the happy problem, but then hits it off with this elderly gal that he picked up at the lounge. I decide to see if having literally every negative trait might push this Sim to have problems in the love department. I mean, he's non-committal and all these other downer things, and he hates kids, so it should be hard, right? Yeah, no. He manages to get that first kiss and into the bed on the first day he knows her, just like any other Sim, except with more gas and temper tantrums. Because they did it one time, it's clear he will now have the momentum he needs to get married in the first day. I mean, to her credit, she turned him down one time, but I was able to fix that in another hour or two. Negative emotions in Sims 4. The moodlets that will bring them up anyway are extremely weak, to the point that you have no trouble overriding those little +1 angry you get. If you're in a place with some mild decorations, it doesn't matter if someone told you off or you hate kids and a flock of 5 are nearby. In this tripped out world, you will be happy even in the middle of an argument surrounded by a herd of kids. The only discomforts are physical, as those can actually knock you down a peg. But yes, this directly connects to a big problem with traits in Sims 4 and their lack of impact. If you doubted it, this should help you understand why others complain. Having every bad trait still doesn't make your Sim feel unique. It's all RNG and only lightly impacted by traits, so you get a negative there, but emotions are too weak on the negative side and you end up with a bonus to social that wipes out any penalties. That's what's up here. So even bad Sims can't truly be bad or original. They fart a lot and do things like throw temper tantrums and pick their ears, but they aren't really offering up a new playstyle in any way. They just do 1 or 2 animations over and over, like the 8 or more tantrums I recorded him throwing. It's the same every time. I'd rather see him provoke arguments. There are a lot of socials with unique animations, but he's not taking advantage of them, which is a shame. For the second phase, playing with Autonomy on was excruciating. Watching him do really nothing of consequence, no matter where I took him. He wouldn't really get into a meaningful conversation with someone that lasted. I enjoyed some of the farts, burps, and tantrums he put out, but honestly, those all come from character values and not personality traits. And yeah, after a while, the novelty wore off. Some strange things came up, like he'd go rummage in the trash, but being squeamish, he'd instantly get uncomfortable from being around gross stuff. Having multiple traits interacting in that way was kind of interesting. But after a lot of watching with Autonomy on, he just wasn't doing anything unique or causing any trouble. Being bad. My feelings changed watching him. I started this Sim out making him silly looking, but what I saw when watching was a pitiable man who is mentally unwell, as he'd end up throwing tantrums and talking to himself a lot alone in a bathroom. The issue with happy bonuses or weak negatives, however you'd like to phrase it, it came up here too. I'd have multiple negatives, but they don't stack, see? As sad and angry do not compete with +2 happy. They could combine to make you feel not quite so good, wouldn't you think? In fact, I think that's exactly the solution for some of this. It's also similar to how older titles handled emotion, making it so 2 weak negatives of different kinds can combine. That sounds like it'd have interesting implications on how often Sims are bubbly. But regardless, as soon as a player with knowledge of emotions makes the decisions for a Sim, it's happy forever from there on out. Otherwise, you're just choosing to be a troll and be mean to Sims, which it's perfectly justified, to be honest. It's just not always fun to play the good guy after all. I think people can use my list just fine to ensure a child or teen gets negative character values. Keep parenting low so you don't get good options, and skip on homework, but keep the Sim attending so they don't get promoted. See, ultimately, the Sims on their own make more frequent bad choices. but not constant. They don't use those bad interactions as much as you might like, and if you're in control, you're going to have to pick it yourself. An extension of my "I don't want to be God of all Sims" complaint. But if you still want to do this, there are a lot of things that boost character values, so you have to farm negatives a lot to get a kid into the red. I think it may actually be harder than good. I think all have some bearing on how well Sims will socialize, but argumentative, bad manners, and insensitive are most interesting to me. I'll link to this in the description, and there are multiple ways to lower each of them listed on my site. Even if a bit of boredom set in from the autonomy stuff, I did have some fun and learned a lot by doing this video. I can trigger certain interactions now to get death animations with ease for future content. I'm going to figure out how I can get others, because someday I'd like to do one of those all deaths videos to up my editing game. You gotta keep trying to improve if you want to do this, that's for sure. I'd be interested to hear what you all have to say about this in the comments. It's kind of a shame to me that even a bad sim doesn't really feel very unique. But thanks for watching and have a great day.